Hi everyone. Welcome to part 2 of lecture 1 in this series of lectures which concerns phonetics for S5 students. How is everyone doing? I hope everyone is doing fine. This is teacher Khalid with Anglaises presenting to you the second part of lecture 1, as I said. Before we begin, let us do a small recapitulation of what we viewed last time, and then we'll add an outline of what we will do this lecture before we dive in. So, أشنو درنا آخر مرة؟ Last time دوينا على هاد الفوكال apparatus هذا، على هاد organs of speech starting left to right. دوينا left to right، دوينا على هاد النص نقدروا نسميوه النص الأول ديال القدام هذا، دوينا على اللبس والاصوات اللي كيجيو منه، دوينا على التيث والاصوات اللي كيجيو منه، ودوينا على الاصوات اللي كيجيو من both the lips and the teeth which we called interdentals. من بعد we moved on to the alveolar ridge، شفنا هذيك collection of sounds اللي كاينين في alveolar ridge. Fourthly, we moved to the palatal alveolar region, and I think that's where we stopped last time. So the outline of today's lecture will be as follows. غادي نشوفوا the rest of the organs as we said from left to right عاوتاني. So شنو بقى لينا هنايا؟ بقى لينا هاد palatal region هادي، هاد البلاصة كتسمى palate. Then we'll move on to the velum area where we will see some very important English sounds. Then غنشوفوا the uvula which doesn't have English sounds in fact, but we will see some Arabic sounds في هاد الاريا هادي. من بعد غادي نمشيو للpharynx. كما كتشوفوا it's the place down here. هاد الpharynx هذا has some very important sounds both English and Arabic, and we'll see a couple of them. Finally غنشوفوا the glottis which contributes a lot in the vocal apparatus, as we shall explain. So, without further ado, let us begin where we left off. So, آخر حاجة شرحناها هي the post-alveolar region، يعني بالتالي غندوزو دابا ال palatal region. Okay, so هنايا it's a bit of a tricky organ. علاش؟ حيتاش هنا technically we don't have many sounds for English, if any. But we do have واحد sound which I don't want to get too deep into it. غنخليو هادشي ل later lectures. علاش؟ because it's gonna confuse you guys a little bit. حيت هنايا هاد palatal region كيخرج منها في الانجليش technically فيها واحد الصوت اللي هو بحال إيكغيك. But it's usually notated as J. هاد هذا it is a palatal sound. غير هو it's neither a vowel nor it's neither a vowel, neither a stop, neither is it a fricative. It's called an approximant أو لا كيتسمى semi vowel. غادي نشوفوهم later on, ولكن for now just know بلي هاد palatal region has very little sounds for our purposes. هنايا في English وفي العربية we will not concern بزاف هاد sounds هادو. As we said هنا عندنا غير ولكن if we look at another language like the German or Amazigh language, we have another sound which is h and h. This is also a palatal sound, except for example in German you hear it a lot in adjectives like lich. This sound is a fricative actually, so this is an example of a palatal fricative. But for our purposes and I have English and everything, we really will have to overlook had organ هذا because we have very little sounds that get produced here now that are articulated من هاد البلاصة. So we will move out any far back to the velum area. The velum area is very important. This place has another name. It can also be referred to as the soft palate. هذيك البلاصة اللي شفنا فيها it's called the hard palate. وهاد البلاصة اللي اللورت اللي فيها الفيلم كتسمى the soft palate. هنايا sounds اللي articulate من هاد البلاصة هادي we call them the velars يعني sounds اللي كيجيو من الفيلم كنسميوهم the velar sounds أو لا velars. In order to articulate these sounds, the body of the tongue that it is pushed against the soft palate. يعني شنو شفنا حنا تال دابا أغلبية الساوندز اللي شفنا involvement ديال the tip of the tongue ماشي the body of the tongue. This is a different case. هنايا في الفيلرز عندنا الوسط ديال الtongue هو اللي كيطلع. You can easily replicate this by saying the word k. It's not the tip of your tongue that's producing the k sound. It's the body of your tongue that is pushed against the soft palate أو the velum and blocks the air. حيتاش هنا k is a stop and it blocks the air. G is also a stop. يعني عندنا ثلاثة sounds we will see اللي هما k, g and ng. And عندنا ثلاثة sounds as I said they are all stops. Let's give an example. For example, k like keep أو لا care. G we have like a goal or go or goat or anything great. كاين بزاف ديال الأصوات فيهم g. And finally we have ng like what? Like for example the sports like ping pong. ما كنقولوش ping pong كنقولوا pong. أو لا أغلبية ديال ing endings يعني gerund في English مثلا parking ما كنقولوش parking نقولوا parking هذيك الأخرى. It is a velar sound but it's also a nasal sound. If you notice الair كيخرج from the nose يعني عاوتاني we have another nasal sound and in fact صافي ساليناهم nasals عندنا ثلاثة في English عندنا ن and ng. It is the velar nasal. شفنا م which is the bilabial nasal وشفنا ن which is the alveolar nasal يعني عندنا ثلاثة nasals. يعني الفرق ما بين ك ج ون ولا specifically الفرق ما بين ج ون هو أنه الإير كيخرج من الماوث في ج بينما كيخرج من في النيف في ng. Seventh because technically the bossel not the seventh organ we will see the uvula. هاد اليوفيلا هادي actually has no English sounds. هاد اليوفيلا هي ديك الحاجة اللي كتبان لكم معلقة في اللور ديال الفم the little dangly thing at the back of the mouth. That's called the uvula. وهاد اليوفيلا هادي ما فيهاش sounds في English. It's very rarely used if ever. و sounds اللي كيتarticulate من هاد اليوفيلا region كيتسماو the uvulars. What we will see هنايا هما examples from the Arabic language just to articulate بحالاش كيخرجوا الأصوات. هنايا we are already familiar with هاد sounds اللي هما القاف like ق الخ خ like in my name Khalid and غ like الغين حرف الغين exactly. هاد الثلاثة هادو are all the uvulars. ق is the uvular stop, okay? While kh and gh are the uvular fricatives. واحدة is voiced, واحدة is voiceless. Kh is voiceless, while gh is voiced. هادو هما sounds اللي we can explore هنا في uvular region. As you can see, ملي can produce you had sounds like kh and gh, we feel واحد vibration في هذيك اليوفيلا اللي دوينا عليها داك الorgan, because it is the one that's responsible for the production of these sounds. Then further back we will move on to the pharynx. هذه هي تسمى القرجوطة. The pharynx هذا sorry, it has a few sounds which we will concern ourselves with. Mainly صراحة هنا في الإنجليش عاوتاني we have another lack of sounds هنايا. واش اشنو عندنا هنا؟ sounds articulated here بعدا are called the pharyngeal sounds. The pharyngeal or the pharyngeal, however you want to pronounce it, the pharyngeal sounds أو لا in short pharyngeals. هنايا عندنا واحد example ديال جوج Arabic sounds. مثلا ناخدو الح like حمار. Like that's the first word that comes to the mind of a Moroccan person. So yeah, عندك الح وعندك الع like العين حرف العين like عماد, the name عماد. هاد two sounds if you notice ملي كنبرودوسيوهم we constrained كنزيروا على هذيك البلاصه اللي فيها the throat ديالنا ديك الفارنكس region كتزير to block the air partially كتبلوك الاير بواحد الطريقه اللي هي partial because both of these sounds are fricatives not stops. هنايا although هاد examples اللي شفنا are Arabic sometimes especially in American English we can hear a version of هذيك الحاء اللي شفنا هذيك الحاء ديال العربيه حيتاش في general American accent كنسمعوا مثلا قليل فاش كتسمع مثلا شي واحد فاش كيقول happy كيقول I'm happy. Have you guys noticed باللي happy في هذه الكلمة it's not the same as happy. Nobody says happy. You know in American English قليل فاش كتسمع happy because ha as we will see in the final organ it's a glottal sound. ديك الها اللي كتعرفوه ديال العربيانيت ديك الها حرف الهاء it's a glottal sound. While هنايا هاد happy I'm happy and I'm here are both pharyngeals kind of pharyngeals you know يعني pay attention to the difference between هاد ال H اللي هي شوية قريبة للحاء وديك ال H اللي هي قريبة للglottis which is our next organ اللي غادي تشوفوا فيه the same sound اللي هو as well as another sound اللي هو stop واللي هي for example it قليل فاش كتسمع ديك التاء في it I got it هذيك في الاخر I got it it's the sound. We have here also the sound not the not but because is pharyngeal while is glottal. It's a glottal fricative and is a glottal stop. هنايا we have we call these sounds the glottal sounds or the glottals to be short. Let's look at an example. For example, Fassi people in Morocco ما كيقولوش لقا اللي قلنا عليها uvular stop. They don't. They usually turn it into So مثلا I can't really think of an example but you know باللي هما they don't pronounce ق they turn it into so هذيك is the glottal stop اللي كندويو عليها دابا. For example في English بعدا قليل اللي كيقول cat بالنسبة للمشا ما كيقولوش cat كيقولوا it's a cat. Have you noticed guys باللي ديك cat it becomes a glottal stop بحال in Arabic we have this I guess it's called الهمزة it's the sound so the same thing هنايا had the glottal stop it's the glottal stop اللي هي كتشوفوها في many languages. Or another word would be button. قليل فاش كتسمع button like البطونة we say button هذيك double T becomes an so it is the glottal stop while هنايا هذيك عاوتاني is glottal fricative like for example hope هنايا عندنا hope but we don't say happy we say happy usually in American هادشي بالنسبة American accent but it's not entirely rare to see بلي is the most common usage of this H sound. Either way خصكم تعرفوا هنا دابا اننا كاين واحد الفرق ما بين ديك اللي كاينه لتحت وديك اللي كاينه الفوق شويه which is closer to the Arabic while the is closer to the Arabic لها you know the letter so far I think that will be the end of the lecture because we have covered the remainder of the sounds of the organs زعما يعني but there's one last thing I would like to explain. I déjà explained it شوية in the previous lecture but I would like to explain it some more. وهو the role of the glottis in the voicing of the sounds. يعني هذا الجلوتس هذا دوينا عليه بحالاش كي contribute في the production of the voicing of the sounds. In short, هذا الجلوتس هذا it opens and it closes. It opens and it closes. When it is open ما كيكونش vibration في هذوك vocal cords, and in consequence كيكونوا sounds voiceless. ملي كنقولوا مثلا خ خ خ it's an open glottis، ولكن ملي كنقولوا غ غ غ it's a closed glottis that produces extra vibration. يعني هذا الجلوتس هذا دابا حنا فاش شفنا الساوندز اللي كيخرجوا منه اللي هما ه ه او it is only هذه the primary function تاع الجلوتس, but the secondary function is in all the sounds اللي شفنا حتى الساعة, all of them هادوك اللي voiced راه فيهم vibration of the vocal cords, بينما هادوك اللي voiceless فيهم lack of vibration or a lack of a strong vibration which produces هذيك ال voiceless, as we said last time, هذيك الeffect ديال whisper ديال الهمس. So ملي كتبغي تهمس الغ غ راه كتولي خ, it becomes خ. For example, let's try it. مثلا هادشي غريب غريب, try to say that in a whisper sound. هادشي غريب غريب. Instantly the غ becomes خ because the glottis is opened. Therefore, it lets the air through, it doesn't produce much vibration, and we get that effect هادي on the level of the phenomena اللي كيعطينا واحد الeffect ديال a voiceless sound. So guys, this was a kind of a short lecture compared to the last one, but this is just because it's the continuation and درنا واحد الفينيش finishing هذاك الشيء اللي بقى, كملنا هذاك الشيء اللي بقى. So that will be it. Let's do a recapitulation of what we just covered in this lecture, so we can stay زعما بقاو عاقلين على داك الشيء اللي شفنا. So دوينا على the hard palate أو the palate region, وقلنا بلي هنايا we have very little sounds except y, which is not a stop and not a fricative and not a vowel. It's an approximant or a semi-vowel, and we will see this later on. For now, just know believe. In other words, for our purposes, we have no sounds in every palate region until we specifically delve into the y sound, which is a completely different thing, and we will see that more in depth ملي غنشوفوا هادوك اش كيتسموا the feature matrices. عاد غادي ندويو على y a little more deeply. After that, we saw the velum or the soft palate, and we said that the body of the tongue is what presses against the soft palate in order to produce sounds such as k, g, and ng. And we said بلي ng is the final nasal sound في هاد الcollection ديال sounds اللي حنا مهتمين بها. ng هو آخر nasal sound. شفنا ن م وغنشوفو دابا ng. For example, ping pong, ماشي ping pong. If you say ping pong, you are definitely you need to work on your pronunciation. So it's ping pong. Later on we saw the uvula, وقلنا هي ديك الحاجه اللي في اللور ديال الماوث اللي كتكون معلقه, هذيك هي the uvula, والساوندز اللي كيخرجوا من هنا كيتسموا the uvulars, وشفنا باللي they are ق خ and غ, and these are Arabic sounds. We have no uvular sounds in English as far as I'm concerned. So هنا شفنا examples to illustrate how this organ is involved in the production of sounds. قلنا كتكون واحد vibration au niveau ديال ديك اليوفيلا. في الحالة ديال ق it blocks the air. في الحالة ديال خ وغ these are fricatives, it lets the air through partially. So later on we saw the pharynx. وشنو قلنا عليه؟ قلنا باللي عندنا هنايا الح والع. الح the sound of ح and the sound of a. Like, as we said, the name عماد, هداء. These are both fricatives that come from the pharyngeal region. وقلنا حتى في الإنجليش في الأمريكان accent we often hear هذا pharyngeal fricative for the words like happy. I'm happy to be here. Look, I'm happy to be here. Here. ماشي I'm happy to be here. That is a mistake that a lot of us are guilty of. So yeah, هذيك ه اللي دوينا عليها دابا it comes from the other organ in the final one, which is the glottal, the glottis, and هادوك يتسموا the glottal sounds. وهنايا we can talk about ه because ه is different from ح, as we said. هنايا ه we can see words like we can talk about hope or there are a lot of words you could go for here. But hope is the only one that came to mind. And we also have the stop, the glottal stop. We have the glottal fricative and the glottal stop. For example, button, button, and cat, cat. And we also said the example that I got it, I got it. هذيك في الآخر ديك is the glottal stop. واللي قلنا في العربية we can say بحال قلتي it's like الهمزة or what it's called. I forgot honestly, but I'm just gonna verify to be sure. Yes, I just had to double check because I haven't studied Arabic in a while. Yes, it is the hamza, as we said. It's the glottal stop. So yes, and we said باللي هذا الorgan هذا اللي هو the glottis, it contributes a lot in the voicing. ماشي a lot, it is literally the only organ that controls the voicing and the voicelessness of the sounds, of all the sounds we covered depending on واش هذا الglottal محلول أو مسدود. When it is open plus or when it's closed ملي كتكون vibration في الchords, vocal chords كتكون عندنا voicing. ملي كتكون lack of vibration كيكون عندنا voicelessness, وبالتالي كيكون عندنا ديك الإفيه ديال الهمس like we said. And yes, that's it for today's lecture. I hope you guys like it. Please support the channel of English Peasy and share the lecture with as many people as you can. See you in the next lecture, inshallah. And please keep studying, and if you have questions, keep asking. And as I said, this course requires you to stay vigilant, be vigilant, and always study in a continuous manner, not in a discontinuous manner that will affect your performance. But inshallah, everyone is gonna pass with flying colors. I believe in you guys. So see you in the next lecture. We'll talk about how to describe sounds. It's just the introduction. We will delve deeply into each of the sets of sounds. These are sets. We will delve into each of the sets of sounds. We will learn how to define, how to point to sounds بطريقة اللي هي specific. But for now, I will be seeing you later on whenever the next lecture drops. So please take care everyone, and see you.